What types of actions did you take from yesterday? Just curious.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
I'll.
I did the Chat GPT prompts and I'm making like a spreadsheet on how to like execute the filming part of it. I did 100 comments yesterday.
What happened? Anyone
Uh,
respond?
it was good. I got a lot more notifications and
Yeah.
more boosting of the profile and reconnect
Yeah.
with old friends.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna say this for the new people here that might not have joined yesterday. It's focusing on you, Rena, like those actions that you're taking, the compounding effect, right? So that's how. Um, that's. I think we're gonna get into this a little bit today here too. That's how we're like doubling our traffic for free. You know what I mean? It's not like we don't run paid ads at our clinic, but anytime that we can get like inbound stuff without paid ads, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's beneficial for us. So especially
right.
we paid off
Plus,
our
it's more genuine and you feel like better in your work too, knowing that you have impact on the people that are around you.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. That's great. You're taking the action. We're gonna touch more on that today. And then we'll get into like consultative based selling tomorrow. So precursor for people that are on here, don't miss tomorrow too. But on my one, I'll start off with this too, and then we'll get into it. On one of my one-on-ones yesterday, we were talking about how we're getting like 2,000 inbound calls at the clinic organically, and part of it is the compounding effect of our client coordinators calling. Does that make sense, everyone? Right? So for anyone that is hiring, we call them client coordinators. You guys might call them front desk staff, whatever they might be, right? Um, when you guys get to that level, right, to really set the bar in terms of, hey, I know it might be draining to call them, right? Each and every lead, because we're quite frankly, for a lot of us, we're spending a lot of money on ads to generate leads. And the worst thing that we can do is to leave money on the table. Yeah. And that's how we don't profit. And that's how I've seen many clinics crash and burn, right? Is they just prioritize the paid ads and that's it, right? But the compounding effect of getting more inbound calls is just acknowledging 80% of our sales happens between the fifth and 12th touch point. Just got to push through. And the actions that you're taking now, just know it will pay back tenfold 3 months from now because a lot of the times most clinic owners don't factor in the downline, and most agency owners that you partner up with just rely on the vanity metrics and they don't even know what that is, like the downline, right? Because half of them they've never even stepped foot into a clinic. I promise you that. Right, if not all. So maybe we'll wait one more minute. Any burning questions that you guys have that maybe quickly that when addressed might propel you forward? I always like to start off with this before we get into the meat and potatoes. Any burning questions that you guys have?
What's a Chat GPT prompt that you use daily?
Well, it depends. What specifically are you looking for?
It could be anything.
Hmm. I don't know about daily, but definitely I use it weekly to formulate my thoughts because I have ADHD. So basically, yeah, I use the prompts that I gave you guys yesterday, and I help formulate my thoughts for scripting out content blocks. So when it's time at the clinic, a hodgepodge of information like in my mind, based off the hooks, based off the marketing research that I've done, keyword research, help formulate my thoughts, and have that help, script out top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. So I don't know if there's a daily one that I use. Definitely use it weekly, but not necessarily daily, right? All right. So go ahead and get into it. Here's some feedback. Tiffany, I think I'm going to mute you, but I'm going to say this. If you guys have any questions, feel free to interrupt. But I want to just maximize the time, right? So, alrighty. And for the people who have been on these calls, I always like to ask, am I sharing school? If not, let me know. But I always like to start because I've done that before where I've started teaching and I'm not sharing the right stuff. Am I sharing should say rule of 400 plus 50?
Mhm.
Cool. Let me get to Lisa's questions first. How does everyone find the time to do all of this consistently? Um, Lisa, you want to expand on that just so I can give you the correct guidance before we hop into it?
Uh, sure. How do I do that?
Sorry?
Can you hear me?
It was a little muffled at first. I could hear you now, I think.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I just, how does everybody find the time to be consistent in how they're um, doing all the scripting, doing the videos? Like, how do you do it? I mean, you still have a business to run. We still have staff to oversee. We still have, I mean, in my case, we still have inventory to order. We have guests to talk to. I just find there's a lot to do, and I find that I'm really great out of the gate, but the consistency to keep going, I just where do people find the time? And how do they prioritize this over everything else that they need to do? And if you're doing it on your own, like we're talking here, um, are people getting outside help with this? Like, what realistically, how what kind of time are we looking at?
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's going to be a lot of time until it's not, right? So when we started our clinic, I mean, we were the new kids on the block, right? And me coming in like new executive, and then realizing that there's a lot of semaglutide and Botox locations around us. I knew that we had to be different, right? So we really prioritize content. I mean, here's the catch 22. We were a new clinic, right? So we started from scratch. You might not be in the same kind of predicament, right? So we had a little bit of time, but not that much because we wanted to be profitable as soon as possible, right? Because we had semaglutide nurses to pay for, and if we couldn't provide, right, we would have to let them go, and that would affect their families. At least that's was my kind of thought process. Yeah. So I told the team this. I was like, got to increase flow and then and then introduce friction, right? So what that means is we do have to get our hands dirty, right? But let's do this strategically, right? Block out scripting days, filming days. Let's not edit those videos. Let's outsource that to Fiverr for like $10, even in the beginning, right? To capture their attention. But let's be strategic about our time and intentional about our time because more often than not, even in our own team, right? When they say we don't have the time, I'm like, take out your phone, show me your screen time. Is there Netflix on there? Oh, Netflix for an hour? There it is, right? Doesn't have to be that straightforward, but internally I was like, hey guys, it's a compounding effect. And we were talking about the downline in the beginning of this call. So the stuff that we do now, right, will pay dividends like 3 months from now, which will allow us to reinvest back into the business, to hire more client coordinators, to hire more nurses to fill up the book, to expand the books and stuff like that, right? So I'm not going to sugarcoat it, Lisa. Yes, it is going to take some time, right? But there are things that we can do to alleviate that in the beginning. So a big one is blocking out scripting and filming times. So for us, we block out a big chunk of our Mondays to do that, right? Sometimes we miss it because we have we're typically pretty um good with our content cadence now where we can just take out our phones and film a top of funnel piece of video content because we've been doing it a little while, right? So all that also comes with reps. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, here's what I told the team too. I'm like, it's no small feat to get a 1,000 Google reviews and now $300,000 a month in sales every single month now because we've earned it, right? So long-winded way of saying it's gonna suck until it doesn't.
Okay, so there's really so people are, I mean, everybody's just working on this like all the time. This just becomes part of the daily, essentially, or weekly stuff that they do for their business.
Yeah.
And there are still clinics that are doing this on their own, doing this in-house still, and not having outside support outside of maybe Fiverr or video editing, etc.
Yeah, so my purpose here is to show you guys the insider stuff that that we're doing without necessarily hiring an agency because it, for me, right? I don't want to take this away from anybody. Like I do think it's easy, right? But here's the deal. I'm going to give you guys the frameworks where you can, hey, this is part of your job now, right? And it's just for the team. So for instance, right, we're incorporating and baking out, a before and after process for our nurse injectors to get content, right? We're documenting this content, so we're stacking our efforts now, right? So we'll show you the tricks of the trade on how to stack your efforts. But yes, the majority of clinics that I've worked with, and even our own, right, we prioritize content because, in my opinion, it's non-negotiable for us not to build connections in our local area for us to demolish the competition. Sorry for being straightforward, but that's my goal for everyone here. Does it make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
But can you give just an approximate amount of time? So is that like, when you say you're doing this on Mondays, is that 5 hours on Mondays? Is it 10 hours on Mondays, 2 hours? Like, what does that actually look like
It's
for
like
a
an hour.
guy?
It's like
An hour. Okay.
Yeah. And here's the deal, like it's when you guys put this in practice, it might take 3 hours for you because it's new, right? But as you kind of develop the process, Samuel, we were talking about top of funnel and middle funnel and bottom of funnel yesterday. But as you begin to be familiar with those components, you could be like, oh, this is the script, and I could just film it conversationally. You know what I mean? And that's a piece of content. Took like a minute, right? So that's where you can get to with reps. And the only reason why it might seem like a time suck is because it's new. Like Tiffany, I know you're a doctor, right? So when you went to you're beginning your medical journey, it's probably overwhelming until it kind of got a little easier through reps, right? That's all this is it. That's all this is. Does that make sense? And that is what this community is designed to do, right? This is not an agency. This is a community, right? So it's by intention that everyone shares their wins. So we all learn from each other, right? This is the purpose. Make sense? Cool. Any more questions like that? That was actually a really good question, Lisa. So thank you. Any more like that? No? Cool.
Are there
Let's get.
tools that can
Sorry.
help? Are there tools like AI tools?
Yeah, yeah. So ChatGPT is a big one that we use, right? You're already using that. We don't edit our videos in-house because if you factor in the time, I think of it like this, like everyone has a dollar amount associated with their time, right? And if you're doing tasks that are below that, and this is not any means I'm not putting anybody down, but we're losing money. So it's more beneficial to pay someone in the Philippines, I'm Filipino, right? $20 to edit your video as opposed to you doing it, or someone on the team that you're paying $50 an hour.
Are there any tools for the posted comments?
Sorry, say that again, Rena.
Are there any tools for posting the comments?
So with that one is an interesting one, right? So you've been in the challenge since day one, right? So the big 3 C's are content, connections, and calls, right? So right now, as you're beginning, I would prioritize leaving genuine comments to build connections because that'll pay back dividends in terms of organic reach and paid, right? So the more connections you're building, they're more likely to see your next post and stories. And that's how we're getting inbound messages for like semaglutide and stuff like that, as well as, calls as well. So I would prioritize that as much as possible. And for us, we don't outsource that because I believe in connections. We're having our client coordinators kind of do some of that because I believe in connections so much. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Great question, by the way.
I was just gonna ask, so again, like as far as I know, like inbound messages, a lot of them are very much repeats. Hey, how much does it cost? When are you available? Things like that. Like, do you like I've seen again other people, companies advertising that you can get a chat GPT bot, something attached to your messaging. Do you
Yeah.
know of how to set that up? Is that anywhere in the work?
Well, today I've actually given a script that we use at our clinic, the DM scripts. The only reason why I haven't kind of swayed into the waters of AI DMing is I don't know the HIPAA component to that, right? Yeah, I mean, I just don't know, right?
Sure.
So I can't say anything that I haven't done before, but what I will let you do, I will do in this call is just give you the DM scripts that we use. And if you can formulate that into an AI chatbot, even better. But yeah, I don't want to say anything I haven't done. Is that fair?
Yeah, because I know there's just companies that are advertising either a subscription base or one-time buy, but it's like it's usually 2, 3 thousand or like 100 to 500 per month subscription, and I'm like that's a lot. And so I know again there are ways to have some
To do
AI
it.
on for you again just on basic messaging. I'm not talking about, of course, our documentation, things like that. That's all going to be separate.
Yeah.
But it would be. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Eventually,
I mean, to formulate and then these are great questions. I think I feel good just spending the time. But then I do want to get into what we have. Uh,
yeah,
if it is purely like an AI, like general stuff, I could show you how to build that. You know what I mean? What I don't know is of the DM scripts that I will provide for you, can we formulate that into a safe, conversation that we're, protecting our own selves? You know what I mean? I just don't know that part,
sure.
right? But yeah. All right, let's dive into it, guys. I think these are all great questions, so this is awesome. Alrighty. So rule of 400 plus 50. For some of you, this might be a reminder, but I promise you there's some new stuff here, especially in the DM stuff. But for the people that are just joining, I'm going to go over this, right? So this is the most effective way that I found to keep everyone here in the community, especially in the premium community, accountable. And again, in this challenge, we're going to give you the first 5 days, but in the premium community, we're doing a 90-day challenge. But here's what I found to almost like guarantee results, right? The rule of 400 plus 50. And for context, for the people that haven't seen, actually, let me say what this is, and I'll show you what we're doing at the clinic, right? So the most effective way that I found for people to rapidly scale the clinic is the rule of 400 plus 50, right? It's a way where I found to keep people accountable to guarantee that they don't fail, right? So here's what this looks like. The first part, 100 minutes of content per day, 100 message outreaches per day, 100 comments per day, 100 per day, $100 a day on ads. Now the top portion can be mixed and matched, right? Technically, you can say, I'm going to spend $400 a day on ads, and that's it. Call it good. Wouldn't recommend it because you're leaving, some components of building connections out, right? So I would, segment that, but I'm only asking you to do 400 per day, right? So it could be 200 a day on ads, right? And the rest comments, outreaches, and content, right? It could be you're doing 400 messages per day, call it good, right? I would figure out a good mix and hit on all four of these, right? A lot of people are doing $100 a day on ads and then the rest, a mixture of that. What I can say on the ads piece is for KPIs, right? We want to be as aggressive as possible to get the data. And really that's should be your foundation. And if you guys are working with any agencies that don't tell you that, they're amateurs. Let's just call it for point blank, right? So like for us, like when we started our clinic, I really wanted to be like, all right, yeah, cost per lead is great, but what was the cost of getting someone in the door for semaglutide? Come to find out, it's $15. For every $15, we got a semaglutide client. So That's how we were able to scale on demand with predictability. And the second that we got that number, the next month we hit 100K because we knew the numbers. Right. And that's not bad for being a new clinic, you know, in Denver, or I guess Aurora, with it being like highly competitive. And then the next is 50 calls per day, non-negotiable, right? We were talking in the beginning of this call, the downline, right? So a lot of our success, quite frankly, is doing the things that most clinic owners don't want to do. That's why we're number one, right? Not many clinics have 1,000 Google reviews in 1 year, but we do, right? So we did the things that most clinic owners don't want to do, right? Because that was our goal, right? And it's not rocket science. It's if you're doing the things that people don't want to do or your competitors don't want to do, then by definition and through repetition, you'll be number one, right? Is that fair? So rule of 400 plus 50, right? I'm going to expand on these, right? Content, right? So pick the place that your client hangs out online. For many of us, it's Instagram, right? For aesthetics, but I don't want to rule anything else out, right? I'm a big fan of like, I have my own hypothesis. Yes, I've scaled 5-7 figure clinics, scaled my own as CMO, but I let the data do the speaking, right? So if you can say to me like, I am a practice owner and TikTok's the way, then I'm not going to dispute it, right? If you have the data to back it up, right? So I'm not going to leave anything out here, but I'm just going to generalize this and just tell you some of the platforms, right? So like TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and in this community, right, aesthetic bosses, we use short form and long form to nurture, right? So just take that framework, right? So short form could be Instagram Reels, or it could be TikTok for you, right? I don't want anyone to get pigeonholed on the actual channel, but if you have a channel that's working for you, move forward with it. Don't overthink it, right? So for us, it's Instagram, YouTube. Yeah. For you, it could be TikTok and YouTube, right? So don't overthink it. And the thing that I want to stress and emphasize, especially for those who are prioritizing outreach, Rena, I'm looking at you guys, right? Don't disregard groups, right? A lot of people do well with the authority funnel by incorporating groups to double their traffic. And if you are doing genuine comments every day, and if we're truly utilizing our, say, Instagram page as our landing page, and we're leaving genuine comments on, say, like a Denver Moms Instagram group page, naturally people will, and if it's genuine, go to our page. Maybe they follow our page, which is ultimately a lead, and a lead is just someone that you can contact. But when they take the action, we're more likely to, at the very least, if we're running paid ads, get them to see the ad. And imagine that experience. You left something genuine, now they're seeing your ad, right? So don't discount groups. Yes, Tiffany.
So when you're so I'm not very great with social media, but when you're doing these kinds of comments, is it just about, say, if I do aesthetics, it's just about aesthetics or comments about anything?
A mixture of both, right? Because like what I want, or what I would suggest, not want's a strong word, is if you haven't looked at day one, right? Which I think you're just this is your first day of the challenge. Go back to day one recording, because part of the offer is you, right? Your years of experience, your unique ways of doing things, right? So not only is it aesthetics, but it's you as well, right? So it can be a mix of personal stuff, things about medical aesthetics. Just don't be just overly pushy, like I'm a doctor here, I could do this. You know what I mean? It's like, I actually care. Here's a value. I'm not asking for anything in return. Right. And that's kind of the strategy for the authority funnel play when you guys are scripting your content. Like the whole goal is to not ask for anything, especially in the beginning. We're just giving value, because who doesn't do that? Your competitors, right? You know what I mean? So for us to lead with that is typically, and 9 times out of 10, most clinics are not doing this at the time at this recording. So quite frankly, the reason why it feels like kind of like a mountain to climb right now is because it is new. Not many people are doing this. So we have a unique opportunity to capitalize and demolish our competition. That's how I think. Sorry. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Anything else, Tiffany, before I move on? No? Cool. Okay. So yeah, so like I said, don't overthink it. It could be TikTok. For our clinic, it's Instagram, right? So just know, don't overthink it. Just choose a platform, right? And spearhead it. If you don't have an audience, start off with content. So it's kind of the precursor of what I said about like just commenting. So if it is Instagram that you're choosing, right, you should at this point have already optimized your social profile, right? So if you haven't done that, refer back to the previous modules where I give a checklist on how to optimize your profile, right? Because in this authority funnel, we're viewing our socials as our landing pages, and we're using our content to effectively nurture, right? So it's the same thing, not same thing, but it's a similar framework of like generating leads. Many of us are using high level, right? We're using email to, nurture them, book an appointment. It's the same mechanism. It's just taken a different form in a way where it's not salesy. And I know that's important to many of you that I've talked to, especially client coordinators that I talk to, where it's like, how do I be not salesy? This is the way, right? So if you don't have an audience, start with comments. If there's groups, right? Denver Mon group, start to engage genuine connections because that will pay back tenfold, right? Start off with 100 comments per day, then increase. Yeah. And then once you're in the habit of commenting, start making posts, right? 100 minutes of 100 minutes per day of creating content. And I want to make it doesn't have to be you're posting content, right? It could be that you are scripting, right? Or it could be that you're doing marketing and research. I think that's part of it, right? So it could be that. And you don't have to, yeah, I would encourage you guys just not to overthink it, right? But the more reps that we do, the easier that it gets, because here's why I prioritize content creation. Many of us crash and burn here, especially when they're like, hey, we're seeing videos. People are saying videos are the way to do it, right? Let's do it. If it was as easy as just creating videos, everyone would be a YouTuber. That makes sense? So it's something else, right? So to really emphasize, like one of the 3 main C's of building a clinic, which is connections, scientific method 2, we have to test our hypothesis, right? So we have a hypothesis of what people want, but as business owners, we let the data do the decision making. We let the market do this decision making, right? So it could be fast tone, I don't know, you walking with an iPhone or whatever, right? Content framework, hypothesis number 1 isn't working, right? So we test out maybe, Tiffany, you're wearing a white coat, right? You're in the clinic. Yeah, more professional, more not iPhone, but more camera quality. That converts in your local area, right? Right? We just won't know until we create different types of content. So that's why I prioritize everyone here continuously making content, because if we get discouraged, we film one piece of content, we put paid ads towards it. Oh, it doesn't work. You know what I mean? What's going on? Here's the hard truth, right? I'm not special. You guys aren't special, right? It's been done before, right? There's not like a magic thing. It's just people just did the things that most people don't want to do until they found the content framework that is resonating with their local demographic. And ultimately, we'll talk about this. Ultimately, in this day and age, the reason why Aesthetic Bosses was formed was I saw that all these agency owners are like, oh, we have this ads thing, targeting, you know what I mean? This is the best thing since sliced bread. It's not, right? With Meta especially, they're trying to push their AI-based model, and they're even saying, don't do targeting, just do it open, right? Just leave it open to utilize our AI-based targeting. And what that tells us is, hey, you guys know who, for the people that have been on these challenge calls, is the more context that we can give an AI prompt, the better it will be. So what that means is the more context that we can give, especially Meta context through our content, we can leverage their AI to find the people that are most likely to buy. So now it is even easier to create ads, right? I want you guys to, I want to empower you guys to be like, I could run ads, right? I'll show you how to run ads here in this challenge. It's like 3 clicks. It's 3 clicks, right? And yeah, I just want to empower you guys to know that. And the reason why I say that is the more I can get you guys to believe that content is the saving grace, because it is, you guys would champion that. You guys will feel empowered to be like, all right, because I created this piece of content, I put ads towards it, it didn't work. That's fine. Now I know what doesn't work in California. Let me test my new hypothesis based on my content plan. Now we're always moving forward. Does that make sense?
Question.
Yes.
So in regards to posting content, making sure, again, it's relatable and things like that, do you recommend, like, as far as I know, there's like we can turn off, for example, the likes, counters, as far as messaging, things like that on posts. Is that something you recommend to leave on, off? Like, does that matter?
I typically don't because I want the engagement, but maybe you have is there a reason why you're asking?
I'm just curious because I know some people, if they see a lot of likes, it's like, oh, great. Versus if they don't see any, it's like, maybe they're not reputable. But I'm curious, like, as far as should that matter, like, or if it's just
I
hidden and
think
people don't know, and they could be like, oh, this looks great.
my style is like, I want as much feedback as possible. And I almost want someone to be like, this sucks, for me to be like, cool, let me try something else.
Got it.
Right? Seriously, like when I first started, like, for my own personal stuff, people were like making fun of me because I was like Asian and stuff. Seriously. And I was like, okay, whatever. You know what I mean? What that did was it fueled my algorithms so more people were like, that he shouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. And it actually helped me. So I was like, cool, bring it on. You guys can make fun of me for whatever, you know? So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it, at least. All right. And what time is it? 35. I think we're making some good time. Improve your profile, right? This is the checklist that I mentioned before. Samuel, I know you did this and you hit number 13. But for the people who haven't done this, go ahead and click this link right after the call, and it'll provide you with a checklist. And what I'm asking for is a score of 13 or greater. If it's less than 10, you gotta do some work, right? I'm not going to go too much into this on this call, but because it's right here, all the steps. So cool. All righty. And lastly, if you guys are, Sam, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just about to ask. Well, I guess you're maybe going to talk about it, but do you have any recommendations as far as how to get local influencers and such to join in, help us advertise,
Yeah.
stuff like that?
Asking, right? So for straight up asking. So for us, like we, you know, we on our Instagram profile, we sent DMs to local radio hosts saying like, hey, do you want to do a free facial? It's like, oh, sweet. Yeah, sure. You know what I mean? They came in, and then now we're talking about potentially partnership with radio and whatnot. So, you know
Got
what I
it.
mean? So like let's the biggest thing that I can actually, let me back up here. What helped us was our content first. So trying to give you the exact thing we did. We didn't reach out until we had content, and I don't think that was planned at all. It just so happened to be like that. So in hindsight, I believe that those pieces of content did help for that radio host to like look our direction. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And that wasn't a planned thing with me. I just, in hindsight, it's probably why she was like, "Oh yeah, I'll come in with a facial. Can I bring my friend?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." You know what I mean?
Okay.
Cool. Any more questions like that?
Always more questions, but we can
Dude,
continue. So
I shouted your name out in the premium view. I was like, "Thank you, man. You're a big help because you're causing me to, you know, make more new stuff. So thank you."
yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, do you mind if I ask one more? And this is in relation to ads then. Would you
Um,
for
well, okay. 2
it'll be
minutes.
quick.
We'll touch up on this ads in you know the challenge,
Okay.
but go ahead.
I was basically gonna asking. I ran an ad it was for a filler where it's like you basically I think it was 200, 250 off, but it's like bring a friend. So it's like then you both get the talks or filler price off. Just curious, wording wise, if you've seen the comparison where it's like, hey, if you bring somebody with you, does that usually work better versus alone?
Yeah, I would create your value piece of content and then do that.
Okay. So still focus on value first.
Yeah, I mean, this is the metaphor that I always like to, I think you've heard me say it, but I believe in repetition. Like you gotta, if you're on a first date and then you're like, "Hey, let's get married on the first date," you'll probably be like, "I'm out of here. I'm running out the door." You know what I mean? So that's the equivalent, right? So digital hello, build that connection. You have more to give than just the service. I know that for a fact because I talk with you personally, right? So introduce how valuable you are, and then do that stuff. And I think you would find more better results. Make sense?
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Warm outreach. 100 messages to people who, you know, comment on your posts, like your posts, follow your posts, right? And I'm going to show you some frameworks, but it's as simple as thanks for following, right? Because again, what that does is it causes them to look your way, engage with the page, right? And for those of you who are already posting, you guys already know that the algorithm is not in our favor, right? But the more actions that we can get for people that follow us to take on our own pages, the more likely that they will see our next post and promotional based story, which ultimately increases our traffic without paid ads, typically. Yeah. And if you are running paid ads, they're more likely to see it in more genuine light than who is this ad just coming across my screen, right? So this is how we become more profitable is Samuel, if they see your face everywhere, they're like, "Oh, okay, Samuel must have something to give." And that's all we need. That's all we need, right? In this world that's sucking people's attention, they just need to see how valuable we are. And people only buy when the value we present to them is greater than the cash that they give us. And that's how, and I'm going to future pace this. This is how we sell the high ticket transformation offer. This is how we sell the, you know, 5K mommy makeover package, right? This is how I was able to help a plastic surgeon like sell rhinoplasty, which is the equivalent of we're selling a car online, you know? So, yeah. And then creating high quality content, right? I'll say it like this, right? Content is valuable if it saves people time. Everyone on this call, and I know majority of you because I've talked to most of you individually, which is not a small feat, right? The content is valuable if it saves people time. You guys have years of experience. Imagine if you like synthesized what you learned, your years of experience into like 10 minutes. Is that valuable? Right? You could be like, I'm willing to bet you guys know the complexities of maintaining buoyancy in the skin, but if you can distill that to a 1 minute valuable piece of content, do you think that's valuable? Do you think your competitors are doing that? No, they're just $9 unit Botox. Come in, don't you want this? Right? So that's valuable, right? So the simplest way of making high quality content is just to spend a little bit longer thinking it through, right? I've said this to many of you, I think personally, but you guys are masters of your craft. And when you're a master of your craft, right, things that are highly valuable to some people might seem easy to you, and thus we diminish that weight. We tend to not talk about it, right? But the whole idea of the exercise of your brain activation and your one-of-one transformation, which is day one of the challenge, forces you to think about those things, right? And I encourage you to periodically go back to that, because you know what I mean, spending an hour filling that out, most likely you've missed some stuff that are like core valuable things that once included will just exponentially grow your entire offer. Yeah. So tell stories, right? We're going to look at look for a high demand, low supply, right? If possible, in terms of hooks. And the thing that we're looking at is not seconds of value, it's value per second, right? Value per second. So this is why I say, think about it a little bit more. And this should empower you to be like, just even thinking about this is not what most clinics do, right? So you're already ahead of the curve. Now it's time to refine it, right? 10x the volume on one platform, you'll have the most momentum, right? Questions on that before we move on? Man, we're rolling. We only have 15 minutes left, so let me expedite it. So any quick questions? No?
I had a
All right.
question really quickly. The last thing, not this, I didn't want to interrupt you before. The last thing you said, not this one, but before, of leaving messages. When you leave these messages, this is like a private messenger, or you're leaving something on that, like where they comment, like, thanks for following me.
Both comments and DMs.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Double your traffic, right? So here's a way that we found, at least in our clinic, to generate more DM inquiries, more reach on our stories, posts, and ads, more impressions, which led to more booked appointments and sales, right? I'm going to reiterate this till the day I die. If everything stayed the same, right, your sales conversion ratios and all that, but we've doubled the traffic to your funnel, we've doubled the sales, right? Of course, we want to talk about increasing sales conversion rates, because increasing conversion ratios by 1% isn't 1%. It's like, it could be $40,000, right? Depending on kind of where you're at. So yes, we're always tweaking the levers, but a good place to start is doubling the traffic, because that's easier to control typically, right? So we've already talked about the rule of 400 plus 50, right? The thing that I want to hit on is, in this authority funnel play, what is often seen traditionally on, especially like on Instagram and all that, is followers are just like vanity metrics, right? Oh, you have 1,000 followers. Great. What does that do to the bottom line? You're leaving money on the table, right? What's a lead? A lead is just someone that you can contact. And on social, it gets easier, right, for people to respond if you are prioritizing building connections. How do we do that? Content, right? So many of us, I'll just say our competition, right, is neglecting to reach out to the people who like, comment, and follow. You don't have to say it, but I'm sure some of you on the call have not responded to the people that have reached out on Instagram. Maybe, I don't know, right? So just know that typically people neglect it. And if we are doing that, we're leaving money on the table, right? So here's the secret. If we simply reach out to them, they will see our ads, posts, or stories more often, right? And the whole name of the game, especially with this digital space, is to get more eyeballs, right? That's one piece of the pie, right? Because we do have to factor in, okay, if they see it, do they click on it, right? If they click on it, do they take the action? All right, if they take the action, like filling out the form, do they come in, right? All those things are considered, right, in terms of like marketing. But it all stems from, all right, are we getting the most views? And if we are getting the most views, can we decrease the cost so ultimately our clinic is more profitable than before. Because if we're just relying on paid ads, unless you have the biggest budget on the planet, right, we won't be profitable or as profitable as if we incorporated these elements, right? So your competitors are not doing that, and that's why their marketing costs are rising, right? So here's how to do all that. We've touched upon in the challenge like how to create content, right? Value content. So I'm not going to touch up on this too much, right? But can run ads. I'm actually going to put this towards the bottom because for the people that don't run ads, I don't want to alienate you guys. But engage with all leads, right? Again, could be thanks for the follow, right? That's it. That's all. That's really all you have to get started, right? And the mentality that I take is increase the flow, then add friction, right? Increase flow, add friction, right? Sprinkle on some genuine things there, right? Because that'll only help. But I would rather you prioritize doing these elements than just not doing them at all, because ultimately this will help scale your practice. Yeah. Additionally, a thing that we are doing to cheat the algorithm is for anyone that follows us, this only works for people that follows us. And we tend to prioritize people that in our local area, but sometimes that gets hard because for whatever reason, people outside of our state follows our Instagram page. It's mostly marketers, go figure. But we tend to add people to our close friends, because what that does is that cheats the algorithm, right? So when we do a promotional based story like this, we're shot up towards the front and there's a green circle around us. So they're more likely to take an action. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So they're more likely to DM us, right? With the action that we want them to take, right? So the thing here that I'm trying to communicate, here's how we're doubling traffic is, especially on Instagram, is these elements, right? Reaching out, which is already part of the rule of 400 plus 50, right? Reaching out, commenting, DMing followers, leaving genuine comments, adding people to close friends, and doing stories, which if you're already creating content, you can just post it as a story and just say, hey, DM us, enter in branded key term with your offer, right? Simple as that. And especially if you're running paid ads already, that even just decreases reach and impressions tenfold, because now we have a strategy by fueling our authority funnel, right? So we are fueling it. We are incorporating organic base elements to decrease marketing costs. And again, if you're running paid ads, it even amplifies that. Does that make sense for everybody? And does everyone understand the marching order here? It plays into the rule of 400 plus 50, but I wanted to give you like actionable things that you guys can do now. Yeah. All right, great. We have 9 minutes left. So I'm going to quickly go through this. So here's some context, right? I invested like $8,000 into a program, and I used what I learned in our clinic, and I'm going to give it to you here today. So I've saved you $8,000, right? Yeah, see, I told you everything I learn, I always come back here, right? So I start off with the price because I feel that makes it more valuable. So everyone here, or for the people who have talked to me and been in the community for a little while, they know about the consultative based selling, right? So that's derived from what's called NEPQ, neuro emotional persuasion questioning, designed to, here's how I spun it. This is not how this person teaches it, but this is how I spun it for aesthetics. So this is how I've been able to empower front desk staff and client coordinators to decrease sales tension. And typically when we alleviate that sales tension from, our front desk staff, our employees, especially if they're client coordinators or front desk staff, whatever you call them, we sell more, we sell more, right? Because they're relaxed. And ultimately, it's designed for them to do less talking, especially when appointment setting. It's designed for them to do less talking and have the patient or client do more of the talking, because the framework is, if they are telling us their problems, not only are they telling us, but they're telling themselves, thus starting the sales process, right? So this plays into what we do in person, right, on the phone, but we take the same framework in DMs. Just want to make that correlation, because I think it'll make, when I teach consultative based selling, like on the phone and in person, easier. Does that make sense for everybody here on the call? At least that framework, right? We'll get more into it, but what I'm teaching in DMs is the same thing we use in like in-person calling. Does that, for the very least, make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So time is it 10:53? So I'll probably go over the stages, but I give you guys examples. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out or post them in the community. But just to respect everyone's time, I'm just going to go through these stages so that way we can possibly leave it up for some Q&As at the end. So connecting questions, these are just meant to build a rapport, right? In a way where it's not salesy, it feels more comfortable. And going back to like the metaphor of like dating before you get married, I guess a better way would describe it is use the same tonality and cadence as you would a friend, right? Here's an example. Like most people start off with like, hey, is this Ashley? Hey, this is Jordan with X Med Spa. Saw that you inquired about semaglutide. You talk to your friends like that? No, right? It should be like, Ashley, hey, this is Jordan with X Med Spa. Your name came across my desk and blah, 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 right? You guys can mess around with like what is said, but if you don't even know the scripts and you focus on tonality and cadence, you'll be way ahead of the competition. I promise you, right? That's ultimately how we empower our client coordinators, because we hire slow, fire fast. And I ultimately want them to address volume and then go into the consultative based selling. There's a pattern here, right? Increase flow, then add friction. Make sense? Situational questions, right? These questions are designed to just get the current problem or get what they're currently doing, right? In a way where it's deeper on a psychographic level than most likely you guys are doing. I'll give you an example, right? So most people probably do something like, hey, what are you doing now to lose weight? Got it, got it. And then they move on, right? So the biggest thing here that I can kind of emphasize is active listening, and then just acknowledging whatever they say in the beginning is always surface level. So we got to break that mold, right? So an example could be in situational based questions could be, yeah, hey, what are you doing now to lose weight? Oh, I'm going to the gym. Oh, just curious. You know, how much does that cost? Right? Who says that? Who says that? And I just noticed that I'm blending in actual talking with DM scripts, but I think that'll make the point. But the reason why we ask that is, hey, how much does that cost to get the situation? So I'm going to future pace this. If you find out that they've been going to the gym for, I don't know, 5 years and they're paying $100 a month for 5 years, now we have something to anchor onto in terms of a price objection towards the end. So if they're like, I don't know, like if they're like, $1,000, that's a little pricey. Wait a minute, Samuel. Just want to make sure you don't miss out on something great. Didn't you tell me that you've been going to the gym for 5 years and you've been spending $100 a month? Right? What if I could save you time, energy, and actually get you to your aesthetic goals? Right? That's value. Does that make sense? So to slow things down And for many of us, the reason why I like this is because we tend to over talk and we sell ourselves out of a selling scenario. Right? So to slow things down is key. Problem awareness, we just make them realize what the problems that they're facing. Maybe in this example that I just made, they didn't connect the dots that, hey, I've been going to the gym for 5 years, spending $100 a month. It hasn't worked. That hasn't clicked. Right? So for them to realize that problem through you just asking questions, they formulated that. You didn't have to tell them, because no one likes to be told anything. No one likes to be sold. So if they come up with that in their own minds, we've won. Does that make sense? Samuel, go ahead.
So with that in mind, then I'm assuming it's not good to be confrontational. Like, so you've been going to the gym for 5 years. How's that been working out for you? Like something like a little more edgy, sharp, like that's
You can
not
say, so you can say the same thing, Samuel, but in a different tone.
okay.
So you've been going to the gym for 5 years. Just curious, how'd that work out for you?
And honestly, that's just like just stab, like, oh. So that's what like I don't know like if it's okay to say great, but I'm just like, ooh. But it's a hard truth.
It's a
So
hard
it's like
truth,
again,
but
you gotta find that hard truth to tell them, okay. So I feel like, and has this worked for you? Are you happy with your results?
yeah.
Like, and then push it. So it's like, what if I can guarantee your results?
Well, no, I would say follow the framework, right? And here's my sprinkle of salt, like or whatever. Um, how we incorporate tonality in Denver might not be the same in California, right? You're gonna have to play around with it by using the same framework. But ultimately, if this was me, even your body language is like, oh, like I want to like jab the knife in you, be like, what you're doing isn't working, right?
Now that feels salesy, but
Well, to you, because I'm describing it, right? But on the
yeah,
receiving end, I have never experienced that,
got
because
it.
you know what most people do is like, yeah, you don't want to be going to the gym, right? You want to be doing our monthly membership for semaglutide, blah blah blah, right? They're doing most of the talk, or the salesperson is doing most of the talking. We're just asking questions. Most salespeople don't do that. So now we're just like talking as if we were like acquaintances or friends.
Sometimes it helps to ask what they like about themselves first, like what they like about the gym routine or what they like about their physique first, and then moving to ask them what they don't like. Then that kind of gives you
Okay.
a
Let me yes, and we might tomorrow we might expand on this a little bit more because we're at time, but that's a good segue. If you ask me that question, Rena, and I'm like, it's great, I have no complaints, what would you say?
okay, and what do you not like about it?
I just said I didn't like anything about it. I like everything about it.
Well, I mean, there must be some reason that you don't like, right? That you'd be here.
Mm, maybe,
I
right?
would I would more so try something like I've had patients like this that come in and they've been doing the gym for a long time and maybe they're doing it because it builds their serotonin levels. They feel better in general, but obviously whatever their end goal is, if it's weight management, they're not getting there. So what I typically say is I go to the gym, I love it. I do it for mental health, but to lose weight, I still take tirzepatide.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I think to getting them to realize that is ideal, and I think you're correct. Going back to Rena, they might say what I'm about to say to you through like just repetition, but a more natural conversational way is like, oh, great. Just curious, anything that you would change about it if you could?
That's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like the same vein, but we're not just like, not like a battle. We're not fighting. You know what I mean? And the less we can make, less we can fight with our clients or prospects. I mean, that's salesy, right? Everyone fights with their salesperson, but now I'm just asking questions. Yeah. So apologies for being 2 minutes late, right? After this call, you guys can get access to all the stuff that I just mentioned. And if you have any further questions, make tomorrow, we'll address it, and then go on to tomorrow's subject material. Cool?
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan.
Okay, we'll see ya. And if you like this, feel free to, actually, I ask you guys, post it in the community. Rena, that was very helpful. I want more people to attend these calls because I think that helps out everybody. So
Very
appreciate
helpful.
them.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.